At its simplest, a lights out puzzle is just a grid of lights, either on or off with one goal. Turn them all off. And that sounds very straightforward until you notice the catch. Whenever you toggle a light, you don't just change that one light. You also change the lights directly above it, below it, to the left, and to the right. And that's what makes these puzzles tricky. Fortunately, lights out puzzles have a couple of properties that work in our favor. First, toggling a light an even number of times has no net effect, and toggling it an odd number of times is equivalent to toggling it once. Second, the order of toggles doesn't matter, so no matter how you sequence them, you still end up with the same final grid state. And these two facts combined mean that any solution, if one exists at all, can be described very simply. You just need to decide which lights you toggle and which lights you leave alone. Now, for very small boards like a 2x2 grid, that means that you can list all possible combinations of light toggles and try them one by one. If the puzzle is solvable, one of these combinations should do the trick. But the number of possible solutions grows very quickly. For an n by n grid, there are 2 to the n squared different toggle or don't toggle combinations, so for large boards, this brute force approach breaks down almost immediately. And there's another issue. Not every lights out puzzle is solvable. Some starting configurations have many solutions, but others have none at all. A brute force approach might have you grind through every combination only to discover at the very end that no solution exists. If we want to handle larger grids, we clearly need a smarter strategy, and one of the simplest ideas people came up with is to stop trying to solve the entire grid at once and instead work through it one row at a time, starting from the top. First, you focus on turning off all the lights in the first row, and there's a pretty easy way to do that. Whenever a light is on in the first row, toggle the light directly below it. Once every light in the first row is off, move down to the second row and see if you can turn off every light in the second row without affecting the lights in the row above. Again, there's a pretty easy way to do this. If a light is on in the second row, toggle the light directly below it. This flips the second row light off and doesn't undo any of the work you already did in the first row. You keep repeating this process, row by row, always pushing any remaining lights downward, and this is why this method is called light chasing, because you're effectively chasing the lights down the grid until you clear the second to last row. At this point, one of two things happens. Either all the lights are off and you're done, or some lights remain on in the last row. And this is where it gets challenging because there's no obvious way to turn those lights off without turning lights back on in rows we've already cleared. But if the puzzle is solvable, there should be some unknown sequence of toggles, call it S, that finishes the puzzle from here. Suppose row star is the first row that contains any light from S. If star is any row other than the first row, toggling lights in star would turn some lights back on in the row above. And because we're assuming S doesn't toggle lights above row star, there's no way S could finish the puzzle. This means that if toggling the lights in S truly finishes a puzzle, S must include toggles in the first row. Now, of course, we don't know which specific lights to toggle in the first row, but suppose for a moment that we do, and let's imagine what happens if we toggle all of them. Any first row lights that are still on after can only be turned off by toggling the lights directly below them in the second row. You can't toggle anything else in the second row because doing so would turn lights back on in the first row, and we've already used up our top row toggles. In other words, if we know which lights to toggle in the first row, we know exactly which lights to toggle in the second row. The same thing happens again in row 3. Once you toggle all necessary lights in the first and second rows, you know exactly what to do in the third row. And at this point, you might start to see a pattern. Once you know which lights to toggle in the first row, your choice for the second row is locked in, and given that, your choice for the third row is locked in. And this continues all the way down the grid and is essentially a second pass of light chasing. So every possible solution has the same structure. A first pass of light chasing, toggle some key lights in the top row, and a second pass of light chasing. But there are 2 to the n-1 combinations of top row toggles we could try. How do we know which one's going to help us solve the puzzle? Well, we don't. We have to try them all, one by one, until we either solve the puzzle or realize that no combination works, meaning the puzzle has no solution. This can feel a little bit abstract, so let's look at an example. From this initial state, we do a first pass of light chasing and end up with a grid that looks like this. 2 lights remain on in the last row. We then select some combination of top row toggles, apply it, follow up with a second pass of light chasing. In this case, the combination we selected doesn't finish the puzzle, so we have to go back and try a different combination, and what do you know, this time it works. One nice thing about this approach is that it works for any n by m grid. If a solution exists, this strategy is guaranteed to find it, and if none of the 2 to the m top row combinations work, we know the puzzle has no solution. But at this point you might be looking at that 2 to the m and thinking, won't this take a long time for large M? Well, yeah, it could. The space complexity is just O of n times m, since we only need to track the current grid, the top row combination we're testing, and the lights we've toggled. But the worst case time complexity is O of n times m times 2 to the m, which comes from having to try all 2 to the m top row combinations. That's why this algorithm is impractical for large puzzles. Light chasing also stops being practical if we want to find all solutions instead of just one, or if we're not trying to turn all lights off, but rather end up in some other specific configuration, and that's when it helps to think about these puzzles in a completely different way. First, label the lights from left to right, top to bottom, starting at 0. Then, build a matrix of size n squared by n squared where the entry I, j is 1 if toggling light I affects light j, and the entry is 0 otherwise. Call this the toggle matrix. The ith row in the toggle matrix captures all the lights that will be affected if we toggle light I, and because the matrix is symmetric, the ith column can be interpreted in the exact same way. Now, what the toggle matrix does for us is that it makes it easy for us to compute the effect of toggling a set of lights. For example, if we want to know what happens when we toggle lights 1 and 2, all we do is sum columns 1 and 2. This tells us which lights will change state and how many times. For example, here, toggling lights 1 and 2 means lights 3, 6, 7, and 8 don't change at all, lights 0, 4, and 5 flip once, and lights 1 and 2 flip twice. And if we want to see what happens when we toggle more than 2 lights at once, we can just multiply the toggle matrix by a vector v of 0s and 1s, where each one marks the light we want to toggle. This helps us reframe our problem because turning all the lights off is equivalent to finding a way to make lights that are on change state an odd number of times, while making sure that lights that are off change state an even number of times. That means we can turn the problem into a system of linear equations, where the right-hand side captures whether the light needs to change an odd or even number of times to finish the puzzle. If we rewrite everything modulo 2, that odd versus even distinction becomes a vector of 0s and 1s, and any vector v star of 0s and 1s that solves the system of linear equations is a solution to the puzzle. So all we need to do is solve the system of linear equations. Now, if you're thinking you can just ignore the module operation and plug this into a typical linear algebra solver, it's not going to work. I would be very surprised if it spit out a solution for you where v was made up entirely of 0s and 1s, but there are two things we can do. We either recognize that this is a system of linear equations over the Galois field with two elements, or GF2, and you can use libraries designed for solving this type of problem, or we can implement a solution ourselves, which is actually pretty easy. If you're going down the self-implementation route, you'll need to implement Gaussian elimination and back substitution just like you would for a normal system of linear equations, with the only difference being that addition should be done using XOR. In other words, multiplication works as usual, but addition behaves like XOR. 0 plus 0 is 0, 1 plus 0 is 1, 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 0. Now, without going into the details of Gaussian elimination or back substitution, here are the main steps starting from a 3x3 grid where all lights are on. First, we would build a toggle matrix. Then, assuming our goal is to turn all lights off, our system of linear equations would be this. To solve this, we first build the augmented matrix, then select the first pivot column, say column 0, pick a pivot row, say row 0, and use that row to eliminate the entries below it using XOR in place of traditional summation. Here, for example, we could add row 0 to rows 1 and 3 using XOR. Then we move to the next pivot column and repeat this process until the coefficient part of the augmented matrix is in upper triangular form, which completes the Gaussian elimination step. After that, we start the back substitution phase, where we can generate all possible solutions by choosing values for the free variables and solving for the remaining ones, or we may even discover that no solution exists at this point. But is this approach faster or slower than light chasing? Well, if we only care about finding one solution, the space complexity is O of n squared times m squared, which is larger than the space complexity for light chasing. But the time complexity is O of n cubed, which grows more slowly than the geometric growth of light chasing. Now, this difference in space-time complexity may not matter for real-world puzzles, but one big advantage of the linear algebra-based approach is flexibility. It can easily be extended to cases where the lights affect each other in more complex ways, or to cases where the goal isn't to turn all lights off but to get to some other target configuration. You can even extend it to cases where lights can switch between more than two states. So, in practice, if the puzzle is small and you just want one solution, light chasing is probably the best way to go. But if you're not sure whether the puzzle is solvable, or if you want to find every solution, or if you want to handle more complex rules, then the linear algebra-based approach would likely be better.